Just over 7 months since rap superstar aka and Tebello Motsoane were shot dead in Durban. Police have since located the gun used and identified several suspects. However, the mastermind and motive for the killings not yet known.
Now, AKA's father, Tony Forbes, speaks exclusively to eNCA senior reporter Dasen Thathiah about the family's journey this far. You saw part one earlier. Here's part two of that interview.
What was your last intimate moment that you had? I know that you showed me a picture of a chess game. Yeah. Was that it, or was there another time where it was just, look, we're not talking shop, we just relax?
I think the last time I saw him in Cape Town was when we played a game of chess. Yeah. I shared with you that as Kenan was growing up, he was hyper competitive. But that's because he always lost to me, anything, whether it was table tennis, whatever, pool, shooting pool in the house, whatever, playing soccer. On that day we played chess. And I think it's probably the first time we ever played chess. Or I probably in the early years when I used to play chess with him, I would take him out with a 3-move or 4-move,
So you didn't go easy on him, eh?
So we played over there, Bob Marley playing in the background, and Kenan was very intense. He was a very intense individual, and he was concentrating, and he beat me on that day. Probably the most intimate was I think it was July, August last year. I was in Johannesburg, and he said, "Okay, Dad, I'm taking you out on Thursday night," and he took me out. And then we got to his place at about 2. And he said that, and I was getting ready to leave because I would work the next morning. And he said, "No, just stay, let's." And we sat on the couch. This couch very much like this. And Kenan, I don't know if you Kenan had always had on his table, always had his music was set up. There was a microphone.
Okay.
He used to record a lot, just sitting.
Sitting
on the couch, smoking. The ashtrays are full of ash.
Get the creative juices
flowing. And he played me Prada. Yeah. He played me, and then we sang some Jackson Brown songs. And
2 in the morning.
Till about 5 or 6 in the morning.
Yeah.
And he just said, "No, stay." And that was the last time I saw him in Joburg, and it was and we didn't talk shop.
Yeah.
It was just the music. We always connected around the music. I used to send him tracks to say, "Have you ever heard this one?" Or he would ignore me for like 2 months, and eventually he would come back, and he would, pick one out. There were a couple of tracks that he actually sampled from that old school music onto mass country.
I was going to say that I noticed as you were telling me the story about how you two bonded over music, and then I realized that he enjoyed sampling music as well and putting a new twist on it. So now
I was at Joburg. I was at Joburg Day, and Lynn's very jealous of this, but Tando Tabete called me up when she introduced. She said, "I got a surprise, Uncle Tony." So I came out. I was like, I told you once and I told you before. So I did and that comes from a Bread track.
Yes, look at that. So it's come full circle.
And he was infamous for 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning, calling people, me included, "Dad, listen to this track. Yeah. Listen to what I did here."
Were you brutally honest?
No, I was still sleepy, but I enjoyed that because he was so busy and we didn't talk as often because he's crazy busy. But when he would call me, like now, okay, when I would call him, my calls would be missed. He wouldn't answer. Yeah. But when he called me, now I got to talk. And whether it's 8 at night, 8 in the morning, or 2 in the morning, you expect it to. And I enjoyed it because I realized, that was. And then we would speak about music, like what he was doing with mass country, and it actually came from like the old school. I remember when his fiancée passed that day, and it was obviously a very difficult day, the Sunday, but at some point, you know, he said, "Dad, come, let's sing those old songs," you know, and you know, it calmed him, and then like 2 years later, when he started with Mass Country, he said, "Dad, do you remember that day when we sang? You know, it helped me so much." And he said, "That old country music, you know, I want to do something." And that's where he started with Mass Country, which is a play on Maskandi. Yes. But the country is from like that old school country music, Bread and Jackson Brown. So yeah, music was our connection. Yeah,
that's amazing. You know, we're sitting here, we're looking at the seven months that have passed, and I've spoken to you about your family's healing. But at the same time, it's difficult to forget, and I think it's not just you and us, it's the entire country that's also watching the police investigation that's unfolding. Yeah. From the family's perspective, what have been your views on how that investigation is unfolding?
Look, I think it is easy to think 7 months later, you know, not much has happened. And I can understand the perception that, but it has only been 7 months. And if you think about what they had to start with, they had video images that basically are inconclusive. You can't see the faces of people. And they literally built the case up from the ground with cell phone records and then subsequently with banking records. You know, so it's been painstaking for them. For my own experience from the Saturday morning, you know, the team was amazing in terms of supporting us, explaining the process to us, but also, you know, I guess managing the expectation that it's going to take time. So all along we've known that it's going to take some time. They have tried to keep us as appraised of the situation as is possible. You know, so there have been periods when there have been gaps because it's just, you know, taken so long. I mean, literally, if you think about it, you have to start from going through the tower, hundreds of people's phones and whittling it down, narrowing it down to, and this is, you know, the commissioner spoke publicly last week, narrowing it down to, you know, a shorter list of people of interest. They've done that. I mean, it's public knowledge. They found the gun. They found the gun already in May, but you know, they had to go through the testing, the ballistics testing, and all of those things, and it takes time. So there are days when, you know, I choose personally, and I know I speak for Lynn and Stefan also, we grieving. We are dealing with the loss of Kenan, and we don't sit and think about, you know, who did this and why did they do it every day, you know, because if and then wait by the phone to hear of news, because if we did, that's all we would do, you know. So we've tried as best as possible to focus on Kenan, and it is 7 months. We hope that things will move forward quicker now because they have, you know, there's more evidence, and they've steadily built up the case. We note obviously the public, I guess, perception of, you know, it's going too slow, and we have called for patience, and we still call for patience to, you know, because you've got to do it properly, because there's no point in just arresting people. Do we want to find out, you know, who did this? Do we want to find out the truth? Do we want to see justice done? Of course we do. But, you know, it takes time, you know, and the team has been, I know the team and we've met with the team a few times, the investigating officer and his team, they committed, and they're working as fast as they can. You know, are there days when, you know, we think it's too slow? Sure. You know, sometimes you think, yeah, it's taking long. You know, and one becomes a bit negative, you know, thinking that they'll never find the perpetrators. I think that's human, but we have to see this out, you know, so that the job is done properly. And you know, you could tell from last week, the commissioner's statement, you know, it's not only the gun, it's you know, they obviously caught someone with the gun, and there's some evidence that, you know, some information more that they can use to trace the gun backwards. Yes. Not that that person was involved in it. You know, they talked about multiple vehicles, so it does point to that they cannot share every single detail with us. You know, even the names of people they suspect or are on that list of you know, people of interest. But we're in touch with them. You know, I have the investigating officers on WhatsApp. If I have a question, you know, I can call him anytime. So yeah, I think it's a little bit more time needed.
It's easy to forget sometimes, especially when you're talking about someone as successful as Kenan, that he comes from a family, which is a very intimate space, but there's also this perception that he belongs to the public. And I think that's where all of these questions start to arise when it comes to investigations, and everyone wants to know what happened and who took away our star, and all of those conversations. So I think sometimes it's a bit difficult on the public side as well, and I'm sure it can become a bit overwhelming for the family. How do you manage that, where this was your son and you have an understanding with the police, you as a family are dealing with the police, and from all accounts, from what you're saying, they're doing a good job at keeping you in the loop. But how do you manage that broader? Yes. Yes.
Look, I mean, we've only felt love and support, you know, for Kenan and for us also subsequently. And I mean, it's been amazing. You know, on social media, people reaching out to us, people in the street coming up to us, you know, people, I go places where I think, nah, no one's going to recognize me here, but, you know, and then people will come up, young people, older people, black, white, colored, doesn't matter. You know, people, we've only felt that. We obviously, there was the situation where some of his friends were being accused of being, you know, complicit in what happened. That was very uncomfortable for us, in the sense that we only know them as, you know, as virtually our sons, and Kenan's friends, you know, and yet, you know, all this noise coming in. So at times people would write to me or post on Instagram saying, you know, you must don't be seen with that person, or, you know, you must don't have this person at the launch of the T-shirts, or this or that or that. So it does become uncomfortable, you know, around those things. And I think we have been consistent in saying, you know, there's no evidence. These people have only been good to us, you know, Kenan's friends that, you know, stand accused, and that's all we can do, you know, and ask people to be responsible, because it also puts pressure on them, you know. People, you know, I think you can imagine, you know, being accused, but you were friends with Kenan, and
mourning at the same time.
Yeah. So those are some of the uncomfortable, you know, things that we've had. But all we can do is to continue to ask for patience, for the authorities to do their work, and to stand by, you know, his friends. If evidence emerges that, you know, to the contrary, then we deal with it when that happens. In the meantime, they are essentially part of our family, you know. That's how we've got, you know, the family's expanded. I have more sons, actually. I spend time with them, and I feel closer to Kenan, even particularly when I'm in Johannesburg, spending time with his friends.
Yeah, it makes sense. You connect through them, seeing how they spend some.
They'll tell stories of Kenan, and yeah.
You said that you are dealing with this. You know, you shied away from the word healing, obviously. but at this point you're still dealing with this traumatic incident. If there was a significant move, or if there was significant progress in the case right now, and you found that tomorrow there was a suspect in court, a main suspect, would you or your family be there, or would you just let that process unfold and continue your process of trying to find some peace?
I think I speak for myself. I want to find out the truth. So in my head, and what's happened and what we're going through now, these are almost stages in a journey or a process. I'd like to think if the perpetrators are found, and it does go to trial, that in itself is something we're going to have to go through. And I'm not saying I'd sit there in court every day, but I would be there. I can't speak for for Lynn and Stefan, nor for certainly Cairo wouldn't be there. But I take a keen interest in the developments and what would have subsequently come out in court should it then go to court and go to trial, for sure.
And let's close with this. We spoke about a number of things, a number of influences and memories. But at this point, and as time goes on, what do you think is the legacy that Keenan leaves here on this earth after his 35 years?
If you pay attention to your craft, you work hard, you can be what you want to be. I think, there are many other things that he's left us with, but I think probably that inspiration, if I can be the super mega, so can you, and encouraging people to, they may have music which they never put out, or it's someone that's an actor or someone that's an author, or I'd like to think that for me is the biggest legacy that it would leave. It's that inspiration for people. So many people come up to me and said, I'm also an artist, but he was my icon, and they're not necessarily only artists. I think that's the biggest. Maybe tomorrow when we walk out here, I'll probably think of other things, but I think that's the one of inspiration. And you if you focus and on your passion, that you can be who you are. Not who you want to be, but who you are. I think that inspiration.
Well, Mr. Forbes, Uncle T, Tony, whichever name we call you by, I appreciate your time, and on behalf of us, we wish you and your family continued healing.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to speak about him, and thank you.